Joining me now, GOP strategist and Nest Point Managing Director John Thomas, and the chairman of the Fort Bend County Republican Party in Texas, and host of the 13-minute news hour, Bobby Eberle. Gentlemen, it's been we find ourselves at the end of a very tough week in this country. John, the mom lawyering up. Your thoughts on that and what we may see yet to come here?
Well, the fact that she's lawyering up indicates to me that she's concerned that she might have known about her son's mental health disorder in advance, that there might have been warning signs that could have prevented this tragedy from happening. And now she's covering her own legal liability. I mean, that's all one can think in this particular situation, which really is sad to see, because in a moment like this, we need to gather all the facts, and so we can learn how we could better prevent these things from happening in the first place. Where were the early warning indications so that something like this doesn't happen in the future? But instead, she's putting up the walls and looking out for herself.
Yeah. Bobby, she would have needed to assent to him changing his name. She worked at the school. And his classmates say if he's running around saying things about Hitler, it's clear that she could have encouraged this trans fantasy rather than getting him real help. Is it time that we got tougher on these parents when something like this happens?
I think so. I mean, and this is just a tragedy, and I agree with what was said. I mean, she's lawyering up because she's complicit, and all of these people on the left that try to push this mental illness as some kind of normality should be prosecuted, because it is a crime against those children that are put through this. I mean, we had hospitals exploding with so-called gender-affirming care. It's mutilation and sterilization, yet the left praised it. They celebrated this. And now when we have this tragedy, it is Christians who are ridiculed for praying for these souls and for these victims, which I find absolutely outrageous and disgusting. We should be praying. We should be coming together and using that power of prayer to go forward.
Yeah, speaking of which, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey getting a lot of blowback this week, dismissing calls for prayers. Minnesota Bishop Robert Barron, he's the Roman Catholic bishop there, rebuked those comments, saying, quote, "Catholics don't think that prayer magically protects them from all suffering," Barron explained, saying, quote, after all, Jesus prayed fervently from the cross on which he was dying. Prayer is the raising of the mind and the heart to God, which strikes me as altogether appropriate precisely at times of great pain," the bishop countered. And prayer, he also said, by no means stands in contrast to decisive moral action. Martin Luther King was a man of deep prayer who also effected a social revolution in this country. This is not an either-or proposition. Here we've got an anti-Catholic hate crime. And John, the secular left, still goes on TV to diminish faith.
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised to see it. The fact is, this is also part of the grieving process. Why are we victim blaming in this process instead of thinking, how can we prevent these things from in the first place? It's just really what's going on here, I think, is the left is attempting to deflect. They're deflecting from the fact that they are propping up transgenderism as something to be celebrated, as normal, and not a mental health issue. They don't want to tackle that core issue. And so instead they deflect to attack people's faith. And then, of course, to pivot to take away law-abiding American citizens' rights, like the right to bear arms.
Yeah, I think you hit on something really important, and that is that deflection from the mental health crisis that has been exacerbated by left-wing policies. The Vice President, J.D. Vance, also jumping in on this, saying it is shocking to me that so many left-wing politicians attack the idea of prayer in response to a tragedy. Literally, no one thinks prayer is a substitute for action. We pray because our hearts are broken and we believe that God is listening. Bobby, I remember when we had this tragedy in Tennessee a couple of years ago, the state legislature there, within hours, they gave money to every school in the state to have armed security. Anybody who wanted it, they could get it, and then they also allowed teachers to be armed once they're trained in schools. What do mayors like Fry not understand, and what do they need to do to try to take some action rather than just blathering on about guns and trans rights?
Well, yeah, they should take some of this medicine and actually pray. I mean, they are driven by a Marxist ideology that wants chaos and wants government to replace everything. And when you look at the virtues such as fortitude or prudence or justice, in this time, this is when we should be praying so that our solutions are driven by that rather than factors such as hatred or anger or revenge. These people out there are sick, and we need to address this situation. And so rather than ridiculing prayer, we should embrace it and use that to address and guide our solution making as public officials or law enforcement officials or healthcare. Use that as our guide.
John Thomas, Bobby Eberle, thank you both. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button above. Once you do, tell your friends, share it, spread the word about the 13-minute news hour so we can keep growing. And for more great content, check out these videos right here, and I'll see you next time.